at the podium. I know. I'm so sorry for that. Yes. That's the order of speech. You're the first, Sam. Okay, Canada, Brazil, welcome. Okay, did anyone see the representative of Canada at the break? Yes. He's here. Hi. Can we see that everybody comes in the room? I know it's a lot of competition with Colombia and England, guys. I'm sorry. But great game, by the way. Okay, so we are approaching the end of very intense 2 days of the seminar. And it's, we just had the panel explaining how we are going to go about the capacity building on CORSIA. And I also mentioned that we would have, that we already had a few states that came forward. We have 10 of them here present with us. And I thank them immensely. I think I start with an apology. I have put all of them in very hot seats, asking them with very, very, very tight schedule to go back to their state's consultant to see if they could help CORSIA implementation, et cetera, et cetera. So we are in that process right now, but you can already see that we are really talking seriously about capacity building. And their presence here is a testimony for that. In addition to the specific training, I also mentioned there are some regions coming forward for, asking us for additional seminars. So we'll probably have 2 in Africa from ICAO, sponsored by ICAO. We are in conversations with them. And we had other states that came forward already saying, Jane, we are coming back to you specifically with further confirmation of our support. But with no more wait, I would like to start with our panelists. And the first one is the representative of Australia on the Council of ICAO, Mr. Samuel Campbell-Lucas. Sam, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jane, and I will refrain from any observations on the World Cup, given that it was a very sad end to the World Cup last week for Australia. So I'm going to move straight on to other issues. Good afternoon, all, and it's very pleasing to see the range of interest here in this seminar and in the seminars that were conducted around the world in each of the ICAO regions. I'm very conscious that cooperative action to address climate change and ensuring that low country left behind is critical for the Asia-Pacific region and for the Pacific component of that Asia-Pacific region in particular. It's a good reminder of the importance of these issues if we reflect on the fact that climate change could actually see some of our ICAO member states cease to exist That's a very, very useful point to recall. And our region does include a large number of states in need of assistance across the board. Recognising that, the Australian government has committed to assisting a number of states in the Indo-Pacific region, and we do continue to be engaged in discussions, including with our colleagues in Wellington, about extending that assistance further across Melanesia and Polynesia. At the moment in particular, the Australian government has committed to supporting Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Brunei Darussalam, Nauru and Papua New Guinea in the implementation of CORSIA. The underlying principle for Australia in this capacity building work is to leverage existing resources and structures wherever possible. And that applies both to capacity building activities, leveraging existing programs, utilising in-country resources where we have transport councillors and other resources in-country in parts of our region. But it also extends more broadly to the implementation of CORSIA in general, where we are very, very keen to work collaboratively with our neighbours to make sure that collectively we find ways to implement CORSIA that don't involve reinventing the wheel or building new structures that use up resources that could be more effectively used elsewhere. So in conclusion, we do very much look forward to being part of this collaborative and cooperative global effort to build capacity for the implementation of CORSIA.
Thank you, Sam. I have to say that while we were talking with Australia, we were also in contact with New Zealand, that is very supportive as well as the capacity building in the region. And I would like to do that remark because although they are not present here today, they convey their strong support for the capacity building as well. So our next panelist is the alternate representative of Brazil on the ICAO Council, Mr. Olinto Vieira. Olinto, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jane. It's a pleasure to be in this seminar. Thank you for the invitation. We all know that CORSIA demanded and demands a huge work from our partners involved in the development. We've just finished the Council with a very demanding and tough negotiation, and in our understanding, we reached a very good end. This is good, and we are quite happy with that. This opportunity, I just took the opportunity to talk about the Brazilian cooperation in general. We are a developing country, and we work very, very hard to make the knowledge we have, how we solve the problems, available to other developing countries. This is particularly relevant to the Brazilian foreign policy, which considers social solidarity as a key instrument in the promotion of progress in 3 dimensions of sustainable development: social, economic, and environmental, as recommended by the Rio +20 conference in 2012. Brazil has discussed its experience of deploying several modalities of international cooperation abroad with its foreign counterparts in the context of several international fora. We have 2 driving purposes, namely, to collaborate with consolidating practices associated with the multiform nature of exchanges between developing countries, and to contribute to the evolution of international cooperation by enriching its political, conceptual, and operational base. The latter purpose is enabled by the unique features of the horizontal relations between developing countries. So this reveals the effort and the profound commitment of Brazilian institutions involved in South-South cooperation to building partnerships that are effectively aligned with national priorities concerning the development of Brazil's partner countries. Brazilian cooperation strives to design structuring activities collectively with partner engagement, and their implementation practice fully respect each country's individuality. Well, this, I would say, is the general view of our cooperation. Specifically in the case of CORSIA, we must say that we have an extensive experience to share with other countries, and we have been active in doing so through cooperation and capacity building projects related to the action plans. I wanted to share a couple of initiatives that we have with other Lusophone countries. We have, as it said, BUD partnership that I would, in a more general line, say horizontal cooperation, recently signed in May this year with Mozambique to assist in the development of their action plan. We have been having an interesting experience of drafting the document together with the focal points of both countries keeping direct contact through teleconference and exchange of information. Brazil and Cabo Verde also have an overreaching memorandum of understanding on various aviation issues, from operational safety to environmental protection. In the environment part, we are sharing with Cape Verde our system for estimating emissions from the sector, not only greenhouse gases, but also particulate matter and gases that affect local air quality. Third, we have also been looking to expand our actions under CLAC, the Latin American Commission on Civil Aviation, to collaborate with the states in environmental matters, which could include activities related to CORSIA in the future. Under the umbrella of ICAO and linked to these activities, we are currently evaluating the best ways that we can contribute to the ACT initiative. We believe that capacity building is one of the main keys for effectiveness of CORSIA. Thank you.
Thank you, Olinto. So very interesting. We have looked into, the needs of the small island developing states in the Pacific, the issue of Portuguese-speaking countries. You remember the importance that we highlighted in the previous panel on the language issues, so that we can, contribute more easily with, if you have this cultural links and you can speak the language. So Portuguese-speaking African countries, and also some of the neighbor countries, because you have that straight relation in the region as well. So thank you, Olinto. Our next speaker is Monsieur Martial Paget, who is the representative of Canada in the Council of ICAO. Martial.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, all. And I'm very glad to welcome you in Montreal. As the representative of the host country, it's a pleasure to see so many of you here in Montreal in this beautiful weather. In days like that, we almost miss our nice winter. And it's a beautiful time to visit Montreal in any case, any season of the year. So as a member of the Council of ICAO, Canada is very proud of the achievement that the organization has made towards CORSIA. We were also participating in the advisory groups, so we're very much involved. Also, with the direct involvement of Gilles Bourgeois, the CAIP rapporteur, who has been devoted and passionate towards the success of CORSIA. So Gilles has been also my teacher in learning about CORSIA since day one, since I arrived here. So, and I would like to say also a few words about the capacity building in the region that participated in the CORSIA seminar in Johannesburg earlier this year. And to me, it was a great learning experience to see the role of having those seminars as well in the region. And also the importance of learning for us who are, sometimes looking at concepts, to learn about the mechanism of CORSIA. And it's not that complicated. And the ingenuity of it is quite incredible, I think. And what also we learned to that seminar is that it's so important for countries to sign up to CORSIA, so that we can have the global coverage of CORSIA. And I think that was also a message we learned during the seminar. Also, we learned that languages are important, that we have to provide the information in the working languages of ICAO. So we had some brochures that were provided thanks to Sweden. But this is very important that those seminars are offered in the languages of ICAO in the regions. And also I learned that the important role of IATA during that seminar. So IATA is key to the success of CORSIA, to their training seminar. So all of this, I think it was a great learning experience for me, and also to see the level of knowledge varies between countries. And it's important that we assist and to diffuse the information as much as we can. So we believe in as well that La Francophonie is an important vehicle perhaps to convey the benefits and to help capacity building in La Francophonie. In the ICAO, we have a group called GFO of the Francophonie countries, which many of the council members and resident countries are participating, where we could use that mechanism to spread the information about CORSIA. This being said, Canada is endeavored to help any country who is requesting our assistance, and we already have done so in certain areas in the Caribbean as well. Finally, I will say that so in capacity building, through Gilles, we'll look at what we can do in Francophonie countries, but also with other countries in the coming months. Finally, I will say a few words about the Canada-France partnership. My distinguished colleague is besides me, and we have been working together. So our Prime Minister of Canada and the President of France signed a partnership on climate change last April, which ICAO is stated specifically in the partnership. It refers as well to the implementation of CORSIA. Mm-hmm. So this is an important base for which to work from. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Excellent, Mr. Paget. Can I just ask Gilles to stand up? You know, Gilles Bourgeois, he's very quiet in the back of the room during this seminar, but he has been instrumental during the preparation of all the material that we have, and we know now as the SARPs, they are contained in a new volume of Annex 16 to the Chicago Convention. Gilles, thank you very much, and you continue very engaged in the capacity building, so can I ask you just a recognition? Thank you, Gilles, so much for your support. Greatly appreciate. Okay, our next speaker is the representative of France in the ICAO Council, and Monsieur Philippe Berthoud. Philippe.
Merci, Jane. Bonjour à tous. I will switch to English and be rest assured now. First, I would like to thank you very much for organizing this seminar, two-day seminar, which comes at the perfect point after the hectic weeks that we've had in the Council. I've been part of this negotiation on CORSIA since the last assembly, and so I've been a witness and an actor of these negotiations, both in the Council, in the Assembly, in the Council, in the AGC, and through CAPE. And it has been a very demanding negotiation, but also a very fulfilling negotiation. And the good news is that there's still more to come to keep us busy for the next years. But I think now we have the critical mass to go ahead, and that's the great news from last week. It reminds me of another very tough and difficult, but also very fulfilling negotiation, which was the Paris Climate Agreement. And I think you are right to try to replicate and follow on the methodology of partnerships, because this was really the drive for success in Paris. I cannot count the number of partnerships, of démarches, of groups of influence and so on that we've carried on in the way to leading to the Paris Agreement. And I think that we have had on a different scale and with different actors the same kind of approach for CORSIA. And in terms of partnership and technical assistance, we will need to step up our efforts in this regard. So this initiative is really perfect for that. France has been very active in terms of capacity building and assistance in the fields, in various fields, I mean, safety, air navigation, and security. But we want also to develop that in the field of environment. The first kind of assistance that we are willing to provide is, I would say, first for you, Jane, and your teams, because you mentioned, and everybody stood up at the beginning of the meeting, your team and yourself have dedicated an incredible amount of effort, and with very little budget, I must say, from ICAO. So what we intend to do is to provide you, starting early next year, because of recruitment time, with a junior professional officer that will be able to help your team in developing the MRV and all that needs to follow. But the key, of course, recipients are states, and we will step up our efforts. Thank you for the program, the ACT CORSIA program. We will need to work with you and other states to define precisely which countries we would be able to support. This has to be a two-way street, so we can't impose our willingness to cooperate. It has to be requested, to be discussed, and it has to be a joint effort. Otherwise, it will not work. So we will work with you in this regard, but I want to be concrete, and I can tell you that already we will provide 2 experts from the French Civil Aviation Authority at no cost for ICAO and obviously no cost for the recipient member states. And we also are ready to provide our tools in the field of carbon market expertise applied to aviation, of course, especially in relation to our own operators. This is something that also is requested by states. We've had a lot of, in our bilateral comments, a lot of requests in this regard, and we have some experience to share, so we are willing to do that. We would like, as a first step, to reach out to 5 countries, and we value this contribution to $50,000 in practical terms, and we are willing to step up our efforts and also to work with you and the ICAO Secretariat in the negotiations in the year to come regarding the ICAO budget and its dedicated part for environment. We will work, as Martial from Canada has said, in the field, in this regard, in the framework of our Francophonie group, and also in the framework of our bilateral agreement with Canada. So the primary focus will be Francophone countries, but we want to be more open than that, and any cooperation will be is possible for us beyond the traditional Francophone sphere of solidarity. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Philippe. So we will be, you will see that we are right now organizing the specific states that will be requiring assistance. We are kind of developing our dating tool for matching the states, pairing them. We are working very hard on that, making sure that we can connect states. Again, bearing in mind the issue of the language, the issue of the culture, the easiness of the proximity as well, geographic proximity, so that we can optimize the effectiveness, the cost, everything that has to be looked at. You have been seeing that very slowly I'm trying to put the World Cup theme also together with Act CORSIA here. So, that has this atmosphere of World Cup here with the flags and everything. So we are in the mood here on the World Cup. So now, our next speaker, it's the ultimate representative of Italy on the Council of ICAO, Mr. Fabio Nicolai. Fabio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jane. In the World Cup atmosphere, I see that there is not the Italian, no, there is the Italian flag, so...
We did not leave you out, Fabio.
Because we didn't participate, unfortunately, this year. Thank you, Jane, for providing me the opportunity of being part of this panel. Before discussing the future steps of CORSIA, let me please take a moment to thank the President of the Council, the Secretary General, the Chairman of the AGC, the ICAO Secretariat, and all the staff of the Environment Office for their impressive and hard work on CORSIA, which leads to the successful adoption of Volume 4 of the Annex 6 last Wednesday. This achievement can be considered an historic milestone for our small community toward combating climate change, and it represents a significant progress in meeting the global aspirational goal of carbon neutral growth from 2020 onwards. The approval of the CORSIA SHARPS is essential in order to provide states and operators with the necessary tools to start collecting information on international aviation CO2 emissions as of 1st January 2019. This information will be the key for the smooth implementation of CORSIA, in particular for the calculation of the baseline at the end of the 2020, which will represent the backbone of CORSIA and on which the functionality and credibility of the entire scheme will rely. The international aviation community is aware that this is not an easy task, and we got it during this seminar. Collecting and verifying data on aviation CO2 emission will be a challenge from states, operators, and ICAO. For this reason, Italy, through its Civil Aviation Authority, INAC, fully supports the ACT CORSIA initiative launched yesterday afternoon by the ICAO Secretariat. INAC believes that in order to fully meet the aspirational goals for international aviation set out by the 38th session of the ICAO General Assembly, training and capacity building will be key and essential elements. Indeed, it will be fundamental to assist and provide support to those states in need in order to prepare them for the global implementation of the scheme. In particular, specific training and capacity building will need to be provided to these states on the development, verification, and approval of the emissions monitoring plans and on the establishment of the necessary regulatory frameworks that will turn up the international agreement and SHARPS on CORSIA into national regulations. INAC, Italian Civil Aviation, has undertaken numerous activities related to ICAO basket of measures to address aviation emissions. In particular, I can mention our experience on the implementation of the collaborative decision-making, which have brought important results in terms of CO2 reduction and the renewal of aircraft fleets. I can also name the adoption of the free routing that in 2017, due to some changes to the traditional routes, allowed those operators that crossed the Italian airspace to save roughly 30,000 tons of fuel. I can also recall the innovative project implemented by INAC and financed by the Minister of the Environment for the construction of a pilot plant for the production of jet fuel from algae feedstock. And last but not least, the work done by INAC in approving new airports investment according to a green policy. Over the years, INAC has supported several states with capacity building activities, especially related to training of Civil Aviation Authority technical and administrative personnel and participating in twinning projects. In the spirit of No Country Left Behind initiative and on behalf of the General Director of the Italian Civil Aviation Authority, today I am pleased to announce the commitment of Italy to support the ACT CORSIA initiative. Since Italian civil aviation has a long-standing tradition in collaboration with some African states, it's our intention to provide financial support for capacity building and training activities that will target in this area with a monetary contribution. The contribution will be addressed through the Secretariat also to those states of the African region that at the moment do not have yet support regarding the implementation of CORSIA pilot phase. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fabio. Our next speaker is the representative of Kenya on the Council of ICAO, Ms. Mercy Beatriz Awori. Mercy.
Thank you very much, Jane, and thank you for inviting all of us here. I'd just start by saying that the adoption of Annex 6, Volume 5 was really a remarkable achievement. And to me, it provides a starting point for the aviation industry to participate in environmental protection in a consolidated and a harmonized way. Jane, over the last 2 days, I believe that the participants here have had a deeper understanding on CORSIA, the design elements, its implementation requirements, and the timelines. So what it means is that implementation is now work in progress. It's important to note that during the regional seminars, ICAO was able to identify the states who required further assistance with their action plans, the implementation process, and even appointing the focal points and answering answering a lot of concerns from member states. But even still, I mean, looking at the last 2 days, we realize that a lot of action is still required. There's need for standardization. And this is an indication that a lot of work needs to be done collaboratively. And we must therefore be able to exchange information freely and share experiences to make CORSIA implementation a success. So how is Kenya engaging in CORSIA? Maybe I need to first say that Kenya doesn't qualify to be in the first phase of CORSIA. And looking at our 2017 RTK figures, it indicates that we are at 0.18%. We have not met the threshold of 0.5% or within the cumulative share of 90%. However, we have agreed to be part of the voluntary phase, and we will begin our MRV obligations in 2019. With the support of the ICAO EU Assistance Project on capacity building for CO2 mitigation from international aviation, we were able to finalize our state action plan, and this allowed us to establish emission monitoring system, implement measures to reduce emissions. In developing the action plans, Kenya has been able to identify barriers, consider various options to track the implementation process and assess the future actions in order to overcome the obstacles. In understanding the significance of CORSIA and its design elements, we believe that there is need for more African countries to participate. However, it's also important to note that the capacity to implement and build a plan successfully is very vital, and we understand that not all states have the necessary support needed to achieve their targets. And that's why the commitment on building partnerships that is why we are concerned with it. And we feel that these partnerships will allow for accountability as well as guide for each other throughout the implementation process. In particular, the development of the emissions monitoring plans and the establishment of the national regulatory framework. Jane, the kind of assistance we are contemplating is the buddy partnership, which we have already started with a country like Zimbabwe. And we believe that going forward, the assistance will focus on particular needs and priorities identified by the beneficiary country, and it will take shape in form of missions carried out by recognized trained experts in coordination with ICAO. We are also looking to the countries that I represent. As a representative here, I'm representing 13 countries in the Eastern region. So in the coming days, we will be discussing and seeing the countries that we can pull up, because we believe that these partnerships will allow and safeguard our initiative of no country left behind. So I think that this is something which is very important, and I can only urge the African countries that are present here that there is no benefit of being outside the scheme. So I think they need to evaluate their positions and join. And I believe that AFCAC is in the room. We can begin to work and see how we can partner with each other. Thank you. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you so much, Mercy. So again, we are now looking. I just made a joke about the dating service, but we are really looking into how best we are going to match those that need the help with those that can provide the help. You saw a few expressions of support for states in Africa that came from Brazil to possible African Portuguese-speaking countries. We had Francophone countries of Africa, some support from Canada and France. Mercy is now talking about South-South cooperation amongst African countries. And our next speaker, which is from the South African Civil Aviation Authority, Shinga Mazetezi, she will also talk about potential South-South support. Some of those activities that are taking place already between countries, they can be even enhanced to encompass also the environmental component and the CORSIA component. And we will be exactly looking the most effective distribution of those partnerships to make that a full reality. We will be looking into every region of ICAO, and you can see we have 10 representatives here in the panel, and they are from different regions of ICAO. We will have to ensure that we will be having the coverage in all the regions as our states need. So, Shinga, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jane. And good afternoon to everybody. South Africa supports the environmental work that is done by ICAO. And through the Civil Aviation Authority, we've hosted for the first time ever in South Africa the first environmental seminar on behalf of ICAO in April. So it was the first time that the ICAO African Regional Seminar on Environment on the CORSIA was held in South Africa. So as the state, we've been very proactive when it comes to the CORSIA. We have already drafted draft regulations based on the draft CORSIA SAPs, and we have showcased these regulations to ICAO. And because we also support the No Country Left Behind initiative, we are willing to assist some states that are neighbors to South Africa, or the states that are within the Southern African Development Community region, with the development of their regulations and guidance material on the CORSIA. And some of the states that we will be willing to assist are Malawi, Mauritius, Botswana, Namibia, and Zambia. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Shinga. I have to say that earlier this month, when we were last month, when we were start looking into preparing some material for the legal guidance on the legal framework, we have already starting outreach to some states that have started action on how to incorporate CORSIA into their state-led civil aviation regulations. And we have been in contact with South Africa. South Africa has now a very good draft of that framework for South Africa. And we were exchanging information on using that experience also, and the possibility of sharing that experience from South Africa with other states that would like to see an example of one framework that is being developed by one of our member states. We are so very grateful, Shinga, for all the support that South Africa is providing to us. And again, a super example of South-South cooperation. You know, if you look at the panel, we have all the regions. We have North-South, South-South. It's really a fully encompassing program that allows for the most important, which is really to support the states that are needing support right now. So our next speaker is the representative of Spain in the ICAO Council, Mr. Victor Aguado. Victor, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jane. Good afternoon, everybody. I was wondering, where are you going to put Spain in this regional distribution? As you know, we are members of the European Union. We are 14 kilometers away from Africa. We are very close to the Middle East, and we are permanently linked to Latin America. So that's going to be a very difficult exercise for you anyway. But first of all, let me take this opportunity to join my colleagues for the appreciation of so many people that they have been working in this field for many years. I've been engaged in this exercise, let's say, for more than 5 years. And it has been a very interesting exercise, but not only interesting, it's something that was needed. And it is not only needed, it was the interest of not nations, it is not needed for regions, it has a global interest, and that's why we are so committed to this effort. Once more, we have seen what I call the magic of ICAO. And the magic of ICAO is to bring everybody together, see the cooperation among industry, among states and other partners, and hearing something that sometimes is difficult to hear, is that everything is free of charge. So cooperation among the world, free of charge, this is the magic of ICAO. And this is what happened last week with the adoption of Volume 4 of Annex 16, something that it is the first step in something that will be of crucial interest, not only for aviation, but for the world itself. My appreciation, of course, goes to the people that they have worked in CAEP, and we have recognized one, but there are many experts in this field that have been working hard. My recognition goes also to the Secretariat. You have seen in this seminar the professionalism of each individual of the Secretariat in exposing specific areas of this field, and this has to be recognized. And also let me recognize my colleagues in the Council for approaching this issue with an open mind. There were plenty of difficulties. I can share with you that only 2 weeks ago we didn't know if we were able to adopt this annex material. And with the open mind and with, let's say, a genuine approach to international civil aviation, we were able to reach this issue. Let me say, we support this because we believe that, as you have heard many times, the license to exist for aviation is safety, but the license to grow is taking care of the environment. And that's why we believe in this effort. Let's not forget, CORSIA is just one of the 4 pillars that we are approaching. I think Jane mentioned that probably, hopefully, this will be a temporary exercise. Well, hopefully it will be a temporary exercise. But let's not forget that we have a full basket of measures, and we are addressing technology, operations, and also fuels. As we have heard in this seminar, CORSIA is not rocket science. Many formulas, but very simple, and you can apply it in a simple way. The challenge that we have is not to apply the formulas. The challenge that we have is the schedule. And this is the schedule for September, for November this year, for January next year. And this is the issue that we are trying to address with capacity building. And is that we need all the states online in order to produce what it is needed in order to have a robust CORSIA system. So we need, of course, to help operators, we need to help the states, and we need also to help ICAO. And operators, we have heard from IATA, they have a full program launch, and now we need to address the states. Now, the success of the program will be high participation in the CORSIA program, but also to have a rigorous, a robust baseline, a robust registry of data that we can take measures from that. Capacity building, indeed, we need to address the capacity building of the states in helping them in their regulations and legislation, but also in the operations of their registries. And then we need to help the states in order to interact with operators and with ICAO. Of interest to states, there are many things that we have heard during the seminar. Development of regulatory framework, essential, and the approval of emission and monitoring plans, also essential. But there are many other things that we can help states in this. We, in the long trip that we have taken regarding CORSIA, we have made all kinds of efforts. And when I say we, I'm talking about ICAO. Videos they have developed, tutorials, brochures, leaflets, seminars, workshops, symposia, you name it. But now we have to go from theory to implementation. And from theory to implementation is where it comes the Act CORSIA. And that's why we support fully this idea of body partnership, the addressing one-to-one, to make it happen, not just in theory, but to make it happen, to have regulatory examples that states can use, and sometimes to have a regional approach to business. So in the case of Spain, we are more than delighted to be offering to ICAO any kind of support that is needed. Of course, we believe that this support of different states, and here we have a number, has to be well coordinated. It will be not proper to have a non-coordinated effort. We have been engaged in previous exercises of twinning, for example, as members of the European Union. We have been doing all kinds of efforts with the US and Central America. We have been doing efforts in Eastern Europe. We have accumulated certain experience in implementing regional regulations and tools. We have developed those tools. We have industry contacts and sessions, and we are ready to contribute to ICAO in whatever you think it is needed. Of course, I will not enter into what kind of languages we speak, because we know already. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Victor. Our next speaker is the representative of United Arab Emirates on the Council of ICAO, Captain Aisha Al-Meli. Aisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. And before I start, I know my colleagues already thanked everybody, but I have to say thank you, Jane, thank you, Cape, thank you for all the participants. I think this file we've been working on for a very long time, and we've seen the evolution from MBM to now CORSIA. And I think we came a long way. And I have to say that we need to sometimes take a pause and celebrate our achievements. And I think, as my colleague said, last week we made history, and we adapted the SARP, which is Annex 16, Volume 4. And I think this is a great milestone that we need to take a step back and celebrate. Now, as a council member, you know, all my colleagues here also mentioned that the council is following this process from the beginning. We have a responsibility, of course, our responsibility towards the states and ultimately towards you to make sure that the assembly resolutions are implemented and on time. And that's the reason we are all under pressure. It's not an easy process, but it is a learning process. And I think, Jane, having us here, having this dialogue, is a great step toward speeding up this process. I would like to also thank all the partners throughout all this process, from states, especially Germany, who have developed a small-scale testing project with ICAO. I have to say that the UAE was one of the first, if not the first, country to have their operators be part of this project. Yes, the UAE is one of the biggest international aviation, I would say, international aviation operations. However, when it comes to certain subjects such as CORSIA, we are still taking, we are exactly like most of the states who do not know anything about this system. So the past few months developing the small-scale project have been a great learning experience. We have our team that's been working with not only Germany and ICAO, but also internally, because it was very complicated to find who in the UAE on the national level should participate on this, from civil aviation to our airlines and also the government entities responsible for environment. And I would also not forget one of the major aspects of this work, which is the action plans. We have just submitted our comprehensive action plans to ICAO. And this process has been a learning process, and I have to say that the team and our CAPE member have informed me that this has been great to learn on how, actually this is part of learning how we can implement CORSIA. We are in the third phase, and the UAE stands ready to also provide any support in the field of developing the action plans. As many of my colleagues said, as a council member and as a donor state, we believe in cooperation. We believe in the level field. For us, the participation of all states on the same level is important, not only for globally, but also for each states, for each state that is a member state. If one state is more than the other, this will create disparity, and at the end, the system won't work, regardless on which field we talk about. One of the major aspects that I captured from my colleagues is the different levels of readiness and the resources of states. And this is a great initiative to make sure that everybody is on the same page. And also to have it, as my colleague, the representative of Spain said, it needs to be a coordinated effort. Some states, you know, and I have to say in Europe and other states have more experience in this field, and some states, such as I would say in the Middle East, we do not have experience. So coordination through ICAO is essential. I would like to also pinpoint a very important point that, Jane, you have mentioned during your speech, is the quality assuring system. Yes, we are going here to be ready as states that will provide assistance and will be trained and will provide training to make sure that the system is implemented equally. But I would urge you, Jane, that the regional offices needs to be fully engaged in this process in order to make sure that they follow up. Yes, we as member states will reach out, but we cannot expect states to be a proactive. And I have to say this from a council member perspective. We have many priorities, safety, security, that are sometimes take the priority when it comes to aviation. So reaching out to states and making sure that these states also implement this is very essential, not only waiting for them. And I would like to conclude that the UAE have always been participating in capacity building on every aspect of aviation, and environment is in no difference. And we are glad, Jane, that you have approached us to be part of this buddy program, and we are more than honored to provide assistance in this progress. And the last thing I would like to say to everybody here, that this has been a learning process. This is developing a new standards, new systems that foreign to us. And consensus and collaboration is essential for this to work. And we have to also respect the disparity and differences between the states. Some states are more advanced than the others. And providing this cooperation is very important so that we ensure that no country eventually will be left behind. Thank you very much, Jane, and I wish everybody luck, and we can learn together during this process.
Thank you so much, Aisha. I think very important point. I can assure that the regional offices will be involved. We will more and more have the involvement of the regional offices now that we have Annex 16, and it's now time for the implementation. And they are our arms in the region, so very important point. So last but not least, I'm pleased to invite the alternate representative of the United States to the Air Navigation Commission, Mr. Michael Brown. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jane, and good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by acknowledging that CORSIA is not only an historic achievement, it is one that highlights ICAO's role as the world's premier forum for addressing challenges within the air transport community. CORSIA also says to the world that the aviation community is committed to being good stewards of the planet's resources and to developing environmentally responsible solutions that also consider the needs of the airline industry. Throughout the development of the CORSIA SARPs, the United States received requests from numerous states for capacity building support. We expect these requests will continue. And while these requests can be somewhat overwhelming, we took them as a positive sign of just how committed the international community is to the success of CORSIA. Of course, it was often the case that when states asked us for information, it was simply not available because the work of CORSIA had yet to be completed. But thankfully, thanks to the good work of the Council, to the Secretariat, and a lot of other industry people, the adoption of Annex 16, Volume 4 went forward, and we're now at a stage where we can begin in earnest to build capacity for CORSIA implementation. One thing we note is how impressed we are with the robust capacity building plan that the ICAO Secretariat has prepared. It is well conceived and articulated and should provide states with ample support in beginning their domestic implementation of CORSIA. The United States intends to support this particular effort. However, we are still in the process of confirming participation, and in particular our plans to work with countries in whom we will partner. We plan to continue working through these details with the ICAO Secretariat in the coming weeks and months, and we look forward to working with the international aviation community to ensuring CORSIA's success. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. So, very interesting panel. It's really touching for us to look and see how much support there is, concrete support that is coming towards that Act CORSIA. Although we launched it just yesterday, it's a reality, and we will be moving. Secretariat will be very active in pairing those states that are in need with those states that are supporting, offering support. And you see from where you are, you don't see the background, but it really, looks a little bit of World Cup in the room. So I'm very pleased to bring that atmosphere of joy to the Act CORSIA as well. I will ask two things. First, a round of applause to our panel, amazing panel. I will also ask a second favor. Can the panel stay with us? I want to recognize the presence of the Secretary General in the room and my director. Feng, would you come and provide your closing remarks in company of this honorable panel, please?
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, all the panelists, dear council members, dear delegates. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, let me congratulate on the successful completion of this latest ICAO seminar on CORSIA. I'm sure you will be leaving here today with valuable information that will assist you in implementing CORSIA in your state. But before you do, I would like to provide a few reflections on the discussions we've undertaken during the past 2 days. Since the opening of this seminar, you have been hearing about actions required from states and airlines in order to implement CORSIA. In this regard, we should recall that the aviation sector has always progressed on the basis of consensus and collaboration among its many international stakeholders, and that implementing CORSIA will be no different. This underscores why it is more important than ever to ensure that all ICAO member states have a solid understanding of the CORSIA requirements, including the capacities and the means to implement all related activities. As you have heard from the ICAO Secretariat and this seminar's panelists, there is an outstanding need to enhance our capacity building efforts as quickly as possible and with due attention to global harmonization. Yesterday afternoon, ICAO launched its Act CORSIA program, a global capacity building initiative which will rely greatly on the fostering of new partnerships and collaboration. It is important for everyone to recall that the ACT CORSIA objectives cannot be achieved solely by the ICAO Secretariat. States, industry, and other stakeholders must commit to it together in order to ensure that the CORSIA goals and objectives are met. ICAO is deeply grateful to all of our member states which have already committed to providing CORSIA assistance, and will look forward to more coming forward in the weeks and months ahead. And to ensure the global harmonization needed in this capacity building, ICAO is currently planning a Train the Trainer session to be held this autumn in Montreal. I strongly encourage donor states to nominate experts who can benefit from this training and become new CORSIA trainers as soon as possible. I also encourage states to assign the necessary resources which will enable these experts to conduct their work in accordance with the plan developed by the ICAO Secretariat. I would lastly encourage states in the position to do so to provide the resources for the completion of other areas of work under the ACT CORSIA program. Over the coming months, several new activities will be unveiled requiring your in-kind or financial assistance, which is always greatly appreciated. It is now my pleasure to officially close this CORSIA seminar and to thank you one last time for your commitments and participation to this seminar and to assist ICAO to implement CORSIA. And I wish you all safe travel home. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the panel. That was very nice. Thank you. We came to the end of the panel. Safe trip home. Thank you all for your participation. And you know where to find the information and the Secretariat if you need the further assistance. Thank you very much for the staff. Thank you for the sound technicians, everybody that has supported the meeting in the background. Thank you. Bye.